Goal number one for today, maybe just the only goal for all I care, this is definitely one of the most important things we have to do right now, is figuring out this window situation and if these windows are in fact leaking or if it's condensation or what it is. So I got a hose hooked up here, that's why I brought the van around. The hose doesn't reach where we had it parked before, so I had to move it over here, but gonna try to spray it, get these windows as wet as possible and try to figure out what is going on. I did have a couple of random RV guys that I found on the internet come by a couple days ago, and they looked at it and kind of gave me a couple of options on what they thought we could do about this. But one of the things that they said that I thought was really interesting is that these windows might not be leaking at all. You know, like we said, it could maybe be condensation. Could also just be the fact that this fabric here actually sort of dips into where the window is, and we think that maybe the fabric has been coming into contact with where the water drains for the window, so like it kind of puddles up in there, and maybe they're not draining as well as they did 25 years ago. It's probably pretty likely that's the case, but he did say that that water in there is pretty normal after a heavy rain, like it should build up a little bit, and it could just be the fact that the fabric was dipping in there and then it just sort of spreads along the fabric, similar to how you would maybe put a paper towel into a cup halfway and then the other half gets really wet and the whole thing just becomes really wet overall. We did a little science experiment actually, Shannon and I, in the kitchen a couple days ago and tested it out, and you know, it's very possible that that's the case. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is just spray this window on both sides. I still have the fabric over here, and then I have it bare metal over here. We rip the fabric out on this side and just try to see if this side gets wet and this side doesn't, then maybe it's not a leak at all. This is not an easy one to solve, guys. I've been spraying this window, literally just sprayed it for like 10 consecutive minutes. My arm is sore from holding the hose up like that, but I'm not seeing anything. You would think that spraying it directly full force on all the edges everywhere would show where the leak was, but I mean, it's pretty much completely, it's 100% completely dry in here. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit of moisture on this side now. Alright, so it's starting to seep through a little. Actually, you can actually see it. Wow. A little bit of moisture coming through here on the fabric. On this side, there's nothing. Where we removed the fabric, there's no moisture at all. I think those mobile RV guys, Ronin RV, I think they were called, they might be onto something here with this theory about the fabric dipping into where the windows are supposed to drain. Could just be poor design on behalf of the camper when the camper was made, and then over time, as the windows don't drain as well as they used to, the water kind of piles up inside, and then the fabric contacts it, and because I have moisture over here by the fabric, where there used to be the worst moisture problem over here where the fabric once was and then we removed it, there's no moisture at all, guys. I mean, this theory might be correct. Maybe these windows are not actually leaking. Maybe it's just because of the way that the fabric is set up. I'm going to get this out of here, guys. Keep an eye on it. You know, we're going to get rain again eventually, probably within the next couple of days, so just keep a close eye on it. It would explain a lot, though. You know, the RV guys did say that these windows were in surprisingly good shape. They thought that all the seams were going to be rotted and everything. They said they were surprised that they were pretty decent overall, definitely still had some life in them. And it would also explain why we don't have sections of the floor where water has just piled up over the years. I mean, this van probably sat for at least a little while. And you would think that if water was just sitting there for a year or two, not moving, like it would rust through the floor. That's typically what happens when you have window leaks. And instead, we just have a few sections with some surface rust, and that's completely it. So
I don't think we need to worry about it right now.
I think Shannon's right, guys. I've been spraying these windows all day, and the most I've ever gotten is a couple of drops from right here. And I think it's probably just because I was like spraying upside down, like full pressure directly against the window. Like, rain doesn't do that, and I don't know. There is maybe a little gap here with this little piece, and I did find a warehouse online in Japan, so Maybe I'll order a couple of spare window parts here and just have them in the van just in case, but as of right now, these windows are not really leaking anywhere. There's nothing crazy going on. I think we can move forward. I think we can move on to the next step, which is the floor. Alright, the focus for today is basically just cleaning this floor as much as possible and getting it ready to be never seen again once we put the subfloor on it. But there's a couple of spots that there's a little bit of surface rust, so I bought a wire brush for my drill. I'm going to try to clean those up. A little bit of glue residue from where the floor was glued down, try to clean that up as well. Just get the vacuum in here and go to town. Making some progress here. The next step, I have some Rust-Oleum rust converting paint, and I'm just going to basically spray over all the worst sections of surface rust. I have been able to grind most of it down, kind of breaking it up into sections, but this area was by far the worst, so that's pretty much my primary focus here. Time to start spraying. By the way, I'm sure some of you guys are wondering why we left all this stuff in here instead of just taking it out. This is actually the water system right here, and you know, we didn't really want to pull it apart because we want to try to reuse as much of it as we can. The pump is bad, I did have to buy a new pump, but this thing here is called a Glide water heater, and it actually works with the diesel engine and the cooling system of the van to heat water on demand. This black pipe here, it runs through the cooling system, so coolant actually goes through here, heats it up when the engine is fully, fully heated up and running and everything, and it works to heat up the water. I don't know if it works. Seems like a pretty good company. Seems like it might. After 25 years, I've already reached out to them and I've been working with them on maybe getting a replacement or figuring out how to test it, but that's a project for another day. We'll get to that later. Tomorrow morning now, also new news. I just found this out a few minutes ago. We are in for an appointment to get the windows tinted. We are going to limo tint all of the windows in this van. I think it's going to look really cool, and it's going to help a lot with heat reduction as well. The van will likely be in the tint shop for at least a couple of days, though. These windows are big, they are complicated, and they are very custom, so it makes sense that it might take a little while for them to get them all tinted. Okay, I might have gone a little overboard with the Rust-Oleum. Pretty much any little tiny speck of surface rust that I saw, I covered up or grinded down or both. Guess it's better to be safe than sorry. I actually went and picked up a second can of it as well just to have, because there's a couple of sections that I missed. I'm going to keep working on this though, guys, keep cleaning it up, and then I'm going to have to take this van to Home Depot because, no offense to the Element, it's great, but I'm not going to fit, 3 sheets of plywood and all the insulation and everything else that I need to get the floor done in that little guy.
Oh god.
How many sheets of plywood do you think we could fit in here?
50?
50? 100? So it's been a few days here. We were a little held up because the van was at the tint shop, and like I said, I guess it was to be expected, but these windows are pretty complicated with the sliding mechanisms, the fact that they're really large, very custom, don't exactly have templates for those, so they had to make them all custom and everything like that, but they did an awesome job. That place was called Titanium Tint here in Florida. Would definitely recommend them, and I'm pretty happy with the result, guys. Going to be a lot more privacy in there now. You can barely see in. They're completely blacked out, limo tinted, and then also it's actually helping to keep things a lot cooler in there as well. Surprisingly, it does a pretty good job. Definitely makes a difference. So happy with the result. It's time to get on with the floor. Good news is that we did save the old subfloor, so we basically have a perfect template here. This subfloor stuff is a lot easier when you have a perfect template already cut out for you. This has been a piece of cake. It's actually kind of fun. It is like weirdly satisfying to have the whole floor just set up here, 100% finished, just kind of looking at it. Definitely gives you a good idea of the amount of space that we're going to be working with. What I did for the floor, guys, is I actually took a page directly out of Lex's book. This is what he likes to do. If you haven't seen my videos with Lex, definitely check them out. I'm going to put a link in the description below to the most recent one that we did, but he kind of likes to make what he calls a floor sandwich. So basically you just have an 1/8 inch of plywood as your base of the subfloor, and then you have another layer of insulation in the middle, and then you have a 1/2 inch of plywood on top to kind of complete the sandwich, as you would call it. And that just gives it a little bit more rigidity when you're walking around, makes it so that you don't have to like fill in the ribs of the van. It kind of makes it so that it's just a little bit more sturdy overall, and kind of makes for a better floor. So I haven't actually done this before. In my NV200 I skipped a couple of these layers, but I think it's going to work out pretty well. Feels pretty good to have it done for the most part. There's a couple of little things I want to do to kind of touch up a few of the corners here and stuff, but I'll take care of that in due time. It's pretty cool how having the subfloor in, it's the first step of this whole build, but it feels like a really important first step because it just kind of makes everything look a lot cleaner in here, a lot easier to kind of visualize how everything's going to go. We already had the water tanks in here. We're kind of looking at how we're going to do the bed setup, and then our little kitchen area, and then we're going to have a little bench where I'm sitting basically right here. A lot of different ideas that we have in mind. Obviously there's a lot of steps to go between what we're going to do with the walls and the ceiling, and then once we actually get the laminate floor on top of the subfloor here, but feels like this past week was pretty productive. The window tint came out really great as well. We're happy with that. Things are going well. We gotta just keep plugging away. It's all gonna be part of the next few videos though. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you all in the next one. What are we doing? T-Rex.
Oh my god.